It's time once again for another episode of Georgia Business Radio. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Rich Casanova.
Georgia Business Radio Show, and we're very excited to have some folks here in the studio. And it's a great company, great concept. We're going to have some very interesting conversation. And actually, Mike-Ames, welcome back to the studio. You have been in a while back, right?
Yeah, I was in to talk about Startup Pirates.
Yeah. That was a very, exactly, yeah. Got that in right away. Yeah, shout out to the Pirates, yeah. That was a very interesting concept. And you were kind of got kind of recruited to help out and be part of that here in Atlanta. So give us a little 10 seconds on the Startup Pirates for those folks that might not.
Right. It was a week-long program, 8 days, and we had 18 participants who came in with all different kinds of backgrounds to basically learn how to take their idea from beginning to further along.
Right.
We taught things like business model canvas, pitch practice, just all those little skills and to kind of give them a boost in taking things forward. And it was all in the theme of pirates. So we had a lot of fun during it. And, the progress from beginning to end of the participants was remarkable.
Yeah, it was a lot of puns and play on words, and it was very,
yes.
But the guests who were in here were just thrilled with the experience. So, but today we're going to be talking about your venture and your business, which is a very cool idea and concept of the biz-garage.
Yes.
And you brought some team members in here at the studio as well.
I did.
Reinforcements.
Yes. These are my reinforcements and the ones who make me look good.
Nice. So let's, why don't you introduce them real quick, and then we'll jump into kind of the background of the Biz Garage and your backstory and some questions. But who's joining us in the studio this morning?
First, I introduce Laura Nunemaker, and
Hello.
she's with Social for Small Business. And she is my social media whiz, and amongst other things, great marketing mind, and has been a huge help in getting some visibility out there and regular tweeting and posting that I wasn't really good at. So she's been a huge help.
Laura, how long have you been in that space? Or
really since about 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Early adopter.
Yeah.
Dang, that's wasn't even probably a Facebook at that time almost.
Well, at that time,
it's like Friendster or MySpace.
Well, that's when I started with web content and with email marketing.
Yeah. And imagine you have had your hands in a WordPress site at one point or another, or daily, hourly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. We'll definitely be interested to learn more about you and your involvement in the Biz Garage, and introduce your additional team member here as well, Mike.
So my other compatriot here is Daniel-Flores, otherwise known as the Creative Genius, and many other names, but Dan's a multi-talented guy. Art runs through his life in every aspect, but Dan serves a couple roles for me. He's been my webmaster and creative director from that side, but primarily I look to him as my business coach, and he's the one that keeps me pointed in the right direction and on point and kicks me in the butt when I need it. And that's part of the role that business coaches play. And Dan does a great job with
Daniel, is that on your business card?
It is not, but I can add that.
Butt kicker, yeah.
That's right.
when needed, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll be interested to hear about you as well. But so how long have you been, he's definitely the creative guy in the studio. He has like 2 gadgets. He's got his Caribou coffee. He is wired and ready to go. Wireless and wired, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's jump back into welcoming again Mike-Ames, the CEO, lead business coach, and the chief mechanic. I love that, of the Biz Garage.
Yeah, I like that.
I think every business needs a little tune-up under the hood, right?
That's basically where this idea came from.
Yeah.
Is folks, they get caught up in the day-to-day stuff, but there's always other opportunities to grow your business, and sometimes they need that reminder to take a step back and work on tuning things up. Giving it a little maintenance once in a while. Oh,
big time! It's like I mean, you wouldn't just drive your car on the road or take it on a long road trip. In other words, take on a new business venture or project without kind of like, consulting or bouncing some ideas off some other folks.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So in addition to that, as a company dedicated, as we mentioned, helping business leaders and their businesses unleash and untap their potential and thrive. I mean, that you could just end with thrive, right? I mean, who doesn't want more of that?
That's the goal. And
right.
I like to think that every business idea should have that opportunity, its best opportunity to do what it's capable of.
Right.
And so that's our goal, is to help you. Even if you're doing well right now, there's usually an opportunity to take it to that next level. So.
I mean, just again, we met some time ago on the original show, and then we ran into Starbucks about a week ago, and we continued this conversation. We could have just had the show right there, right?
Yeah.
But it was, I just love this idea of the analogies are kind of endless in that, again, with, your business and thriving and, not just the tune-up kind of concept, but you need operating on all cylinders, right?
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
can kind of tell when your car is not quite, hitting all cylinders. And again, with your business.
Yeah. And when I first came up with the idea, I was thinking of the menu board that you go into auto repair shop.
Right.
Tune-ups and alignments and overhauls and body work, and all those have parallels in things that your business probably could use some attention.
Oh, and speaking of parallels, I mean, you have to have the right mechanic, because a lot of times they'll oversell you on stuff you don't need.
Right.
Again, to the business thing, sometimes you buy more widgets or you adopt more things. You really, it's all about kind of one of our emphasis here at the Pro Business Channel is running a lean business, right? And being able to be nimble.
Right.
Okay, let's continue. We haven't even got through the bio yet. It's that great of a show. All right. So I know. So before relocating back to Atlanta 2012, you worked in senior level positions for several small businesses in the Savannah area, specializing in operations management and strategic planning. Thus your 912 area code on your cell phone. I picked up on that. You did
still hanging time in Savannah. One. I haven't quite let that go yet.
Well, that's a great area code. That's a fun part of the state and the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll talk about St. Patrick's Day and a few other things, Savannah style. Okay. All right. But prior to that, in terms of strategic planning, you also spent more than 10 years at Coca-Cola USA doing operations, project, and customer relationship management, and earned your MBA in Michigan. And I mean, that's an MBA right there at Coke. I mean, if you are in that house, they know what's going.
It was a great learning experience. Well beyond what you get in the classroom and the academic experience.
Right.
There's so much to learn, and you're exposed to so many things and great people at an organization like that. So it was hard to leave, but on to bigger and better things.
It's funny. One of our mantras for if you listen to old Georgia Business radio shows, used to be from Savannah to Atlanta and back again. And you kind of like, finally, we got somebody that
would be me.
Can raise her hand. Would be. But talk to you about Michigan. So. How did you end up there? Are you originally from that part of the country?
I'm actually from Michigan. I grew up outside of Detroit.
Okay.
And went to school undergrad at Wayne State University in downtown Detroit, which was a great experience. And then after a few years in the banking industry, decided I think I need a little bit more skill set here. I need to get exposed to some bigger ideas. So I went to Michigan for my MBA.
Right.
And it was an awesome experience. It's a great school. It's remarkable, but it's changed dramatically even since I've left. I mean, that was a long time ago. I don't know if I should reveal the number of years.
I was going to say, it's probably a lot. I know I've went up there a while back, and it's definitely probably a whole different scene than when you were growing up back in the day, as they say.
I'll put it this way. There was no internet back then.
Wow.
No email.
Man, life was good. I wish, right?
Yeah. The simpler days. But,
big time.
But it was a great experience. But as I finished up, basically the day after graduation, I was in a truck moving to Atlanta. That was just before the Olympics were going on.
Okay.
Here. So this was the place to be, and didn't have to deal with winter. So
right. No, big time. It was. I didn't realize that timetable. I was in California at the time, and I visited out during the Olympics.
Okay.
And then fast forward, ended up moving out here. But so talk to us about business coaching, and let's kind of. For our business, obviously listeners on the Pro Business Channel, not only here in Georgia, Atlanta, but around the country and around the world, as they tune in, their ears are perked. That's why they're kind of seeking out a business conversations. And so talk to us about business coaching? Why would someone look to implement?
It's interesting because when you say business coaching to most people, there's probably just as many definitions or expectations as to what that is as the people out there. But it's an opportunity to get a fresh perspective on your business, get some fresh eyes on it, to fill in some gaps on things. But most people tend to quickly put it in the category of consulting. My biz coach is going to come and fix my business and show me how to do this and
give you systems and stuff.
Right. And while that's part of my background and I can offer some of that, really the premise that I go on is that nobody knows your business better than you. And I'm here to draw out the potential of your business by asking you questions. Also, I'm not there to run your business. I'm there to enhance your business.
That had that conversation recently with somebody is, launching just a boatload of new opportunities here at the Pro Business Channel in our Buckhead studio, and specifically in terms of syndication, just an endless number of moving parts. And somebody was saying, well, Rich, why don't you have this person do this, this, and this? And it's a yin and yang of it's a challenge to try to explain to someone what you want to accomplish. And it's not like you need at some point, obviously, to delegate. Right. But, there's that huge gap of, I know what I need to have done, but the time I would have to try to explain it to someone. Right.
Well, and a big part of what I do is I want you to learn how to think about your business, so that you don't need, the consultant over time.
Right.
The coach is there to kind of keep you motivated, but the idea is to help you learn how to think differently about your business, to be taking a step back and evaluating what's working well, what's not working well, and then learning some techniques to then address that in delegation and all those things that you use to solve the problem.
Right.
But with a little bit of practice and exposure to a coach, you start to think differently and approach your business differently.
Well, a lot of times it's like you spend so much time just the day-to-day operations and getting things done and what lands in your inbox and projects you're working on that you need maybe somebody to kind of see big picture kind of stuff and kind of the accountability to say, okay, it's great what you did this week, but where is this? Or, one of the focuses, we brought a new person on board, Craig Williams, and you know Craig?
Yeah.
So from a business development standpoint, and because you can only wear so many hats.
Right.
And I'm great, a systems guy, right? And I think I'm kind of creative element of bringing new things to the table.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, you need income producing activities.
Right. Yeah.
Hello. Yes or yes. I got a response from
that's right. Very important.
IPA is not just the beer. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's funny because there are so many aspects and facets to running a business, and nobody's good at all of them. We all have our strengths, and the idea is to help you get focused and stay focused on what you really do well and find ways to build systems behind you or get support through other people to do those other things. So one of the lessons that I try to get people to embrace is to be thinking about what's holding me back. If you doing a task that you're not designed to do is holding you back, or you could be doing better if you're focused on something else, then let's find a solution for that.
Yeah. One of favorite phrases I steal from Craig is he says, do what you're world class at.
Yep. That's right. That's great advice.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the Business Garage, and it's, we kind of, touched on the idea, the concept, but give us a backstory. And then, and also let's talk to, your guests in the studio, Danielle and Laura, about, where you guys came in on the Business Garage, venture, and, expound on the hats that you wear. So
yeah, a little background is, again, I had been in the corporate world for a long time. And while I was doing that, my role at Coca-Cola was specifically working with franchisees of different companies. Primarily, Wendy's was my biggest client and where I spent most of my time. But I spent years working with them, building relationships, knowing their business, helping them, basically coaching them in my role to grow their businesses.
Right.
And it had a little bit of a focus, obviously, on the drinks part of it, but it was also a big part of it was getting them to do what they do best, make hamburgers.
Right.
We'll handle the other and build the systems behind you. So, while I did that for several years, I left that and ended up in Savannah working with several different small companies building their businesses, working with entrepreneurs to get them out from behind the desk and driving the business instead of paying bills and doing all the things that were distracting them from really growing the business. So, all my career, even though my title was never coach, that's basically the methods that I was using in my day-to-day job. So, I decided it was time to come back to Atlanta, just a bigger market, more things going on. As much as I love Savannah, there was only so many companies that I could chase and work with.
Right.
So when I came back here, I very quickly got this idea that, okay, I need to actually coach for a living.
Right.
If it's finally time to do it, as it should be, labeled as coaching. And I had just recently, before I moved, came up with this idea of the biz-garage and the parallels of operating a car and the parallels of operating a business. So I decided to go out and launch the biz-garage. And so it's been just a little over 2 years that it's been going. Right. And kind of looking to find my niche, to build a practice and the clients out there. But definitely focused on helping smaller businesses generally get a grip on where they're going, what direction they're headed, what things they can do day to day, and also doing some community events as well, doing a lot of that.
Well, I think it's just an interesting mix to be able to bring someone in like yourself that has the corporate background. That the Coca-Colas of the world, they've perfected the science of making a business successful, all levels, all aspects from all angles, right? So it's spent 10 years in that space.
Very influential.
Right. And to be able to come into a small business, we don't have obviously don't have those resources. And most folks maybe not, as entrepreneurs have that, have been on the corporate ladder perspective. So, it's interesting to bring that in. So let's just mention real quick again, once again, you're listening to Georgia Business Radio. Your host, Rich Casanova, having a conversation with the CEO and founder of the Biz-Garage, Mike Ames. And tell us about your website, point of contact, all that good stuff before we continue.
The website, www.the-biz-garage.com. We are at the Biz-Garage on Twitter.
Okay.
We have our Facebook page, the Biz-Garage. What else am I forgetting? We're
on LinkedIn and
Pinterest. Yes, I have a fairly extensive Pinterest page with a lot of great resources. A lot of what I want to do is help spark people to get a fresh idea. No pun. It is.
If you weren't going to jump on that, I was the spark.
It's out
there. Put a little spark in your business. Yeah,
but. So there are a lot of resources, just these little one-pagers that if you need a fresh perspective, you can go there and get a little insight and some advice to get through the day and maybe see your business a little differently.
And so all those resources and social media links and so forth would be at thebizgarage.com. Right. And speaking of Pinterest, we've never thought about incorporating that. We're barely on Instagram. We have a lot of people that follow us, but I don't just don't have the time to engage on that. So let's talk to Laura, your social media expert. So let's start with Pinterest, just since Mike mentioned that. What's unique, or why should businesses play in that sandbox?
Well, if you're selling anything physical, you should definitely be on Pinterest. Okay. If you have interesting ideas to share, often you can get those across pretty well on Pinterest. Pinterest is a slow build. People will share them like months and months down the road. Yeah. So it's not like Twitter where everything is pretty instant and then disappears. Right.
Yeah, that's where we're huge on Twitter. We just really kind of latched onto that early on, and it's been a gold mine. But it does kind of vaporize. The shelf life is minimal, right?
Yes, definitely.
And so if you were to from what you know about the studio, if you will, and our format, we don't have a widget that we're, a product that we're selling per se. And I thought Pinterest is more like a bulletin board, but you're also kind of describing it as maybe kind of a blog source in a sense, or no?
Well, not exactly. A lot of what people do is they will post a snippet of, like, you could post, like for this, maybe you would post a quote that you found particularly interesting during a radio show,
right,
on top of like a picture from the actual show,
right,
of the guest. And then that would be very shareable for people.
Okay.
And attached to it would be a link to the show.
Okay.
So that's how it would get shared around.
I'm connecting those dots. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. I think there's a big opportunity for you guys to provide those links for months down the road, years down the road.
Well, that's the beauty of, we have a live broadcast. We're live streaming on the internet through multiple channels, Mixler, Spreaker, and so forth. But the beauty of capturing, our mantra is we create conversations, but we convert those conversations to content. Because if the mics weren't on,
right,
we would have compelling conversation, but then it just kind of like thin air. It's gone. It's not even captured, right? So it's one thing to capture it, but then we convert it, and through those platforms, on iTunes and Facebook and the social media, YouTube, and so forth. But I like what you're saying about Pinterest, but could we also do that with Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn? Or
you could definitely do that with most of those. The problem with Instagram is that you don't get a link in your post.
Oh, really?
Yes. So,
ruh-roh. Well, let's hold on a second. I'm going to delete our Instagram. No offense, Instagram. Yeah.
Well, but it's still, people still like to see pictures of guests in the studio and that kind of thing. So it's still worth sharing, and you do still have a link in your profile, which will go just directly to your homepage.
To the main
probably.
homepage. Yeah.
But,
So it's much like the hot topic in terms of video, Periscope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which has really kind of captured people's imagination, but it does kind of have that shelf life. We talk about, like, we're in internet broadcasting, and then we produce a podcast and so forth. It's evergreen. And we were listening to shows early before this came that were recorded months ago. And a show you were in the studio a while back with Dirk Ebner on the Kids Business show, talking about Startup Pirates. I was listening to that over the weekend. Whereas car radio is it's just gone. So Pinterest is akin to like Periscope as opposed to like YouTube. Yes or no?
In some ways.
I don't know that I would connect them exactly that way. I think your description of it as being kind of like a bulletin board is definitely apt, but it's also like trading cards that have links attached, if that makes sense.
On the Pinterest as opposed to the Instagram.
Especially with, you guys trying to promote all the different radio shows that you produce, as well as all the guests that you've had over all this time.
Right.
There's the huge cross promotion where they have it up on their Pinterest page, you have it on yours, and everybody's seeing all these links for months.
Yeah, I definitely like that. So we need to add the Pinterest logo up on our wall now. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. So, but let's talk about now the Business Garage, because I feel like I get free consultation whenever I have people in here. I've learned so much. Well, it's a great think tank here or whatever. We bring in the subject matter experts, and then we get free advice and thoughts. So talk to us about your role in your day-to-day operations and what you've kind of brought to the table in terms of promotion for the Biz Garage, I guess.
Well, so now we can go back to knowing what you're good at. And Mike is really good at documenting when he's doing a specific thing. Like if he's in an event, he'll take pictures and post them on social media and all of that. But as far as the consistency, the day-to-day, the having a regular presence, that might have fallen down a little bit.
A little bit. I got a little busy.
A little bit.
So I put in that layer of interesting content on a daily basis and promotion of things that we know he's doing coming up.
Okay.
To keep that just consistent. So, because otherwise, if you're not showing up in people's feeds, they forget about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's part of what we're trying to do here is be a resource for people as well, whether it's face-to-face or it's, a place you can go to get a fresh idea, to be able to consistently know that there's going to be some tidbits of information, this list or that list or this article is great because they're getting some value all the time, even if it's not a live face-to-face opportunity.
Right.
Right.
You kind of struck a chord there when you said basically being consistent and the continuity. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday, and the same conversation was taking place that if you're going to start something, whether it be social media or business venture, obviously, but and they were talking about their podcast, is that people, your listeners will want to expect that if it's every Wednesday, it needs to be there. So when they kind of tune in, they're going to look for it. And in terms of like feeds, RSS feeds, like iTunes and so forth, if it's not there on a regular schedule, all of a sudden they'll start dropping you off the list, right? So, maybe we should talk about a biz-garage show right here in the studio. We'll make that happen. Add that to your list. Yeah.
There's no shortage of topics.
Big time. Yeah. I love this whole idea of, tuning your business, fine-tuning it, working on it, hands-on. So let's switch gears now to Daniel. Is it Dan or Daniel? Either one or?
Either one is good.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'll just go with Dan. That'll save us some airtime. Yeah. So to talk to us, folks, about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then when you engaged in the Biz Garage and your role.
Right. So I've been a working artist for 20 years.
Wow.
When I was growing up, I didn't like school. I didn't like rules. I wanted to be myself, and be creative. And I was lucky enough to start drawing early in life, so that as I got older and found my path as an artist, I was able to make that a career and draw all the time, get paid for it, and live freely. Away from rush hour traffic.
Oh yeah.
And so as that went on, I realized, and this is 20 years ago when the internet was not what it is today. You had to figure things out on your own a little bit. And because I didn't like school, I never went to college. I didn't take any classes from business classes or anything. Formal, it's correct. So I just had to try things out. And as I tried things out on my own and found other similar artists or people who were their own business, then that's how I learned what I needed to do for myself to get ahead and make this a sustainable type of life.
Right.
And all of that experience has been growing and growing for 20 years. I've gone beyond just drawing. I do graphic design, illustration. Been doing web design since the 90s. And my wife and I, we're a team. We have a business that builds brands and websites and online presences for businesses. And so all of that come together now to the point where I mentor other artists in the business of art.
Nice.
And so we try to give anyone who is interested in building a career or a business as much advice as we can on the front end so that they don't have to battle their way through to success.
Sure. We'll actually give you and Laura a chance to kind of give a plug for your business and point of contact as well. So, so you were basically drawn to being an artist, right?
Yes, that's how it all started. Correct. And I just enjoy art. I love it. I could talk about art all day. Yeah, that's a whole nother.
You usually do.
A whole nother show. Yes.
Usually does. Yeah.
Yes. And just to answer the last part of your question was, when I came across Mike, it was through the technology and the hackathon space.
Oh, okay.
And as an artist and as a creative person, I like to look for new challenges. And I don't know how, but a few years ago, I started attending hackathons, and that's how I came across Mike. And I like smart people. I like to be around smart people because that's how I learn.
Right, exactly.
And it's been a synergy ever since. And I want to see the Biz Garage grow to become whatever Mike's vision is for the Biz Garage, and me go along for the ride and grow also in my own business and my learning.
Okay. Now, were either of you all involved in designing the logo, or you already had that, I guess, in place? Or
I actually
because it's a pretty cool logo.
had my nephew put that together. He's a graphic designer, and so I had him do that for me. And what I was playing on is the whole service side of the industry, the old 40s and 50s gas station, garage, auto repair type thing. So I wanted my logo to reflect that old timey service.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think all of us have said something reference to like, before the internet. So I got my wheel spinning is like, did conversations like this much take place when folks would say, I was around before TV or before the radio, right? Before the telephone. Right? Remember the days before the telephone, right? Wow. Now we're living in the fast track with the phone ringing or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now what do you do on a regular basis, I guess, at the Biz Garage? Do you have a official title there, or?
I don't think I have a title, one title. We wear many hats.
Yeah. Right.
When Mike and I get together, we meet regularly, at least once a week. We go over the schedule, what's going on, how are we making moves on the vision and the mission that Mike has for the Biz Garage.
Okay.
And are we getting the message across when we when we connect with people? How are we going to drum up the business for Mike, for the Biz Garage, and to continue to move forward?
Yeah. So his primary role for me has been as a biz coach. Just a fresh set of eyes, very wise, lots of great skills. He also does the production for my podcasting and webinars that we're putting together. So he's multi-talented, and I'm very fortunate to be in his company. Probably more so me getting the benefits out of this than he from me. So. Yeah, he serves.
So kind of the visual and the creative aspect, and then the audio or design kind of stuff. Yeah.
And then the kick in the butt.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. We all need Dan to help us with that. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to, so that's kind of the backstory of the Biz Garage, and then kind of fast forwarding. Talk to us about your ideal client and, who you're looking for. If, for some of them might be listening, what would they look like? There's a phrase that says, "Who's your avatar?" Right? Kind of like, who would you imagine?
Right.
And in addition to that, there's a particular industry or niches.
As far as kind of the type of person I'm looking for is a business decision maker, usually C-level, but it really could be anybody who is trying to make things happen, whether they're within a corporation and manage a team or manage a project, whether they're just getting started, starting up a business, and running their own show, or whether they're in a small company that's been going for a while. So it really can be any of those people who make decisions and are looking for a better way to perform better day to day and make results happen. But in my mind, the avatar is more the small business owner, probably 5 to 20 employees. Okay. They got into business because they are passionate about something. They've got a skill set. They've got a passion for, helping people out one way or another in their own special way. And they don't get into business because they're great business people. Right. They don't want to sit behind the desk and, make all the decisions and pay the bills and all that. So they're talking to themselves and saying, "Hey, I want to do this business, but I can do the other stuff. I'm a smart guy. I can make this stuff happen. How hard could it be?" Well, it's harder than you think. And unfortunately,
amen on that.
That's what catches most people, and it drains their energy. It takes their focus off of what they really do well. So that's what I'm looking for. Somebody who recognizes that they could use a little help. Right. They could think differently about their business. They can plug in some of the holes. Because we can take one particular topic, that will help them to move the business forward, or we can look at the bigger picture and look at beyond that, being very proactive about building something for the longer term. So kind of, for me, when I talk to them, it's, what really is going to help them. So what I'm looking for are people who either need a wake-up call and, they're hurting right now and they need some help, or they're proactively saying, "I want to do this better. I know there's a better way."
In some cases, they've kind of hit that proverbial brick wall, right?
Right.
Absolutely. It's like, I heard a phrase you may resonate or be familiar with, but it just kind of struck a chord with me years ago. A business coach said, to the essence of what got you from point A to point B, right, will be the exact thing that will hold you back from getting to point C.
Yep. It's hard to break out of that.
Yeah. And I remember at that juncture, I was just a networking, crazy man. I was at every networking event, 9 times a day or whatever, because I thought more is better. As I was collecting boatloads of business cards. And I was, kind of a tipping point was, I remember I had a call from a client that wanted to meet with me. And, do business. And I'm like, I can't meet with you because I'm gone off to this networking event. I'm like, wait a second, something's wrong with this.
That was a good catch. Good catch.
Right. But it didn't really resonate, that idea of all that networking accomplished major stuff in the former business I was involved in. Right. It was the secret sauce. It really made things happen. Right. But it got me to that level, but it was not gonna. To do more of that was actually gonna prevent me from getting to.
Yeah, and we also fall into our comfort zones. Hey, we do this really well. We think that's what I should spend my time on, but there's an opportunity beyond that, and sometimes you recognize it, sometimes other people recognize it for you. And a lot of times it's not a big shift in what you're going to do day to day. It's refining the balance of those activities you're doing.
One thing I'd like to do if we have time, we're coming up near the end of the show. We still got time, but maybe if you have time, people love stories, especially in sales or business. So I don't know if a story comes to mind of a client you've worked with recently, or if you can just kind of run through maybe a recent client interaction and what that kind of looks like. And so if we have time, if not, we can invite you back on a future show for that conversation. But have you heard this? I heard this recently, that this descriptive of, we talk about the DISC profiling and what type of person you are. But in business, there was this conversation that someone shared recently that said, folks in business, you're a grinder. Have you heard this? A minder or a finder?
That's the first time I've heard that version of it. But, that's
right. But elaborate on those. Your spin on it, but this idea of the grinder, which we talked about, is like I'm all in, and you're doing phenomenal, but you're never going to be able to get past that phrase or that phase. And then as a grinder, you're just like you're just making things happen. You're working like night and day, all day, every day, right? And you're producing something, but the idea is to get to a minder, so you're kind of like overseeing some folks and bringing more folks on board. And then finally, as a finder, now you're really kind of scouting out new talent, and you're kind of.
I think that's very common for especially growing companies, that the folks who got there at the beginning are so caught up in, doing what they do and doing it well, and have a hard time delegating and finding an extra person that might open up some more time for them to go out and manage and be the finder. So it's definitely a challenge for most companies, and I think especially the founders of a company. That entrepreneur who starts it really struggles with letting go of the reins and trusting other people and delegating and hiring some people that will support them. They're used to being in charge, and a lot of times what I'm really struggle with is the amount of ego that's in a business. It's trying to get people to back off and say, it's not just about you, let's do what's right for the business and not so much for you. So I think that's going on frequently in every business, and a lot of times in the evolution of your career. As you get good at something, you feel like you need to continue to do that, and you need to look for opportunities to grow and pick up new skill sets. And
I think there's a time for each of those phases to be in. Right. And so if you're in startup mode, or we talked about the startup pirates, or these hackathons, or these, Atlanta Tech Village, or just all this. And I was talking to somebody the other day, is that, where we're at now with the Pro Business Channel, it's kind of all hands on deck. And there's more work to be done than it seems like hours in the day. But hopefully that's the idea, is that you're going to project, you only stay in that mode for a certain period of time. Like we're bringing some interns in next week and so forth. But it's kind of like Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks, or Steve Jobs. I mean, don't kid yourself. In the early days, Howard was mopping the floors, cleaning the bathroom, making coffee. He knew every coffee that needed to be made.
Yeah, I think it's important, to do what needs to get done. Be willing to get your hands dirty. But I think you need to also on a regular basis, step back out of your business, keep an eye on the big picture and where you're headed, so that you can have that right perspective to say, okay, now it's time to grow this or that.
I mean, how do you know that time? How would it, because if Howard was still in Seattle making coffee in that one store, right? We can't even conceptualize that.
Well,
but how do you know when to kind of
I think
back off?
You start hearing about opportunity. Am I missing out on opportunity? Yeah. It's I think a different trigger for every person in every situation. But I think if you are consciously taking that step back out of your business, like once a week, where are we headed? What's going well? What's not going well? Just those fundamental questions alone will help you to put that work that you're doing into perspective. If you simply ask the question, what's holding me back? That alone will spark, in many cases, a situation of, oh, well, maybe there is a different way to do this, or adding an extra resource can actually take us, add a multiplier effect.
Right. And on kind of, similar note, but so talk to us about, if someone engages with you, is there like a process, or is it kind of customized? Or you mentioned, do you do workshops, one-on-one consulting? I mean, what are the offerings, I guess?
Right. A lot of different ways to work with us.
Yeah, because you mentioned webinars.
Right. We're trying to build a library of resources online so that people can digest it, whatever works best for their schedule and for their learning styles. But in the meantime, we also doing a lot of face-to-face, events, hosting a meetup group called Founders Roundtable once a month. Was in the past hosting a Entrepreneurs Breakfast Club at General Assembly. We're kind of on a hiatus from that right now, but we'll probably pick that up again soon. Do a lot of volunteering at hackathons, do some office hours at different co-work spaces, attend a lot of networking events. I like to be out there. But so there are ways to access me just kind of for free and, for some bounce an idea off me. That's fine. But we'll take on clients, and, generally that's a tailored solution. How much time do you need? What's going on? How much time do you have to dedicate to working on your business? Is it, I meet with you once a month for a couple hours on, let's say every first Monday, and then we follow up with some phone calls, versus do you need every other week? Do you need every week? So those are where things move forward. But I also like to keep checking in with people. I'll ask them to send me a text every morning saying, what are you focused on today? Those types of things, so that they're building good habits is really the objective of what we're doing, is building the good habits, seeing their business differently. So those are all available and tailored to their unique situation. And I try to keep them affordable, based on their situation.
And is that mostly here in this market, or do you work with any clients remotely out of the Atlanta market? Or
right now, most of the people that I'm working with are local. I have a couple of folks that I touch base with once a month that are some back in Michigan, and I'm blanking on the other one right now. I think it's in Tennessee. So there are a couple of those kinds of connections. It certainly is doable that way. We can do this virtually. It's not necessary. And ultimately, I want to have resources available online so that they don't have to touch me. They can go and pick up a webinar or a workshop that we've done locally and see and get the content from that. Developing some programs as well, and doing the podcast. So lots of different avenues to get our attention.
So you offer some freemiums or some consulting, right? And then then parlay that into a subscription. Yeah,
and generally the first time I meet with somebody, that's complimentary session. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the business, how you got it going, what's working well, what's not, what your frustrations are, and then we'll look to see, is there some way I can help? And sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. It may not be the right timing yet. So that's available to at least see whether or not having a business coach will work.
And is there any mentors or books or systems or models that you kind of follow or would recommend or kind of
Sure. I think the one book and concept that I'm really a big believer in is the E-Myth system. The whole concept of working in your business versus on your business. I think that's the real challenge. Most people get caught up working in and not on. So I think reading those books can be very helpful as far as kind of looking how to see how you run your business. So I would definitely recommend those.
Well, it's probably maybe a good starting point is if you kind of give that as a potential client as a homework assignment, right? Let's start there, read that. And then that way, when you then bring them on board as part of the boarding process, or whatever, onboarding, is that now you're kind of talking the same language right? And then ultimately have your team and y'all work on your own book, right?
It's in the works. The outline's all done.
Nice.
Just need to sit still long enough to write it.
Nice. So we're going to close with maybe come back to you, Mike, in just a second. If you have some words of wisdom as we wrap up the show here. But let's turn our attention back to Laura and Daniel, and then feel free to share if there's a point of contact for folks that might be listening and want to utilize or continue the conversation with you. How about they go about doing that?
For me, my website is at socialforsmall.biz.
Okay.
And on Twitter, I'm at socialforsmallb. And basically through the website, you can connect with me in multiple different ways. And I also blog there regularly with tips and tricks specifically for small independent businesses.
Right. Yeah, blogging, that's a thing that seems overwhelming, but it's
really important.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. And you said the Twitter at small b, what was that?
At social for small b.
So is it lowercase b or is it actually spelled out small b?
Oh, it.
Letter B.
all of those letters spelled out.
Okay, yeah. All right. And I was just giving you a hard time there. Okay, and Dan?
Yes, sir. You can find me online.
Okay.
Anywhere on social media or my website as Delta Tango Mike.
Nice.
So that stands for DTM.
Okay.
So my artist name. But anywhere online, look for Delta Tango Mike, and you can, from my website, you can be able to find me for my mentoring business, for the web design and brand marketing, even my art.
Okay.
Everything. I have different ways to find me online, but if you just go to Delta Tango Mike, you'll find everything.
Delta Tango
Mike.
Mike.
I think the other one is Azalea Creative Group.
Right. That's the big business website. Yes.
Well, and I'm a little hesitant to ask this question because you warned me as well as Mike confirmed that if we ask you about art, we could spend the rest of the afternoon talking. But I am kind of tempted to ask you what, besides business application for art, what type of art do you do or would be akin to, or your style, I guess, of
yes. So I grew up drawing with pencils.
Okay.
Pencil is my first love. My wife knows this.
Right.
And
painfully.
Yes. So paper and pencil, that's my main medium. I do fine art. I paint with acrylics on canvas. I do murals in business walls, outdoors. I organize art shows so that I can give other artists the opportunity to show their work somewhere. Mm-hmm.
So when you say pencil and paper, you're talking like charcoal etching kind of stuff, or
like the number 2 pencil. The number 2 pencil.
Really? Oh, wow.
On paper. Correct. That's it. Yes, I'm a big fan of paper. I can't walk by a store where they have notebooks and drawing books. I have to walk in and grab one and have a stack at home.
Yeah,
I have tons of pencils. I collect all types of different brands. And I enjoy just drawing, the simple act of drawing.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about doing art on business walls. We thought about kind of getting creative on our walls here. I ended up putting up our whiteboard panels, which I thought was pretty creative.
Yes, that's very cool.
Okay, yeah. Well,
but this side, we should do something on this side.
But we thought about doing, like a creative headline, like guest wall of fame. So we'd have somebody like yourself do some really creative artwork on it, and then have photos. But when we thought, we've had over 1,100 people come through the studio.
Walls.
We don't have that many walls, and then also it's like if Sarah comes in, her picture's not up there, but Emily is. It's oh wait, what about me? So we'll have to talk maybe after the show.
Yes, because I have lots of creative ideas when it comes to art.
Okay,
so just tell me what it is you want to do or what your ideas, brainstorm, and I got tons.
And you should listen to, we did, I think it was International Business Radio. We had a gentleman in here from a nonprofit organization, a paint charity, and they were collecting cans of paint and shipping it to other countries around the world, right?
That's cool, yes.
Because we take it for granted, but there's some schools in third world countries and other
Right.
hospitals that just adding color we take for granted, but is a huge
great idea.
impact. I may have to connect you with those folks.
Yes, I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah.
That interests me, yes.
Yeah. All right. So, I had some other questions for Daniel, but I think we better move on.
I'll come back. Just let me know when and where. I'll come back.
Art radio show. Yeah,
that's right.
We need more of we need our video element. Yeah. Cause it's be hard to, I mean, they say, radio is theater of the mind, but when we're talking about art and color and design, we may need to add video for that. Okay, so Mike, send us home here. You have some words of wisdom, some thoughts?
Two things that are just consistent themes for me. I'm out talking to folks who are thinking about getting into business, been doing it forever, and they always want to know what can they do? What can they do to be better? And the themes that keep coming back is first, know what you want. Take some time and think and continually refine to what it is that you want. Whether it's happiness, satisfaction, whatever. What are those activities you want to be doing? What kind of people do you want to be around? What does success look like for you? So taking time to think about what you want, and then to me the second thing is show up, especially in a city like this where there's so much going on. Just getting out the door and being around and seeing, other people's faces, and them seeing you, you're that regular showing up and being there. That's how things happen. That's a competitive advantage you can have over the other people who think about all this stuff, but never bother to show up. So,
that reminds me of the, acronym, or the VCP says, visibility first, leads to credibility, because people are like, well, this person seems consistent, or their continuity there, and then leads to profitability. But back to that networking thing, I think I kind of went too far to the extreme, cold turkey. And,
right. There's a balance.
Oh, big time. I need that balance. And, one thing I got out of it is I was a big fan of the, breakfast meetings and then the after hours. I didn't do so much of the lunches, because it seemed like, you go to a luncheon meeting and there'd be 100 people there, but you'd meet the person to the right or left of the table, and they'd have awards and presentations and speeches, and then everybody's watching their clock to bolt out the door.
Yeah. I think the important part is to shop around a little bit, try out all these different things, figure out what works for you, what works for your schedule, and also where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're getting some value. Because to go to an event that's just to show up is not worthwhile. Yeah,
you have to evaluate the ROI, or if it makes sense. Some events are great if you're B2C as opposed to B2B, right? Sometimes it comes down to locale. But I found, as a back in the day, and a lot of folks, solo entrepreneurs or work from home, you talked about avoiding traffic, which is great. But sometimes you get up and you start going online in your PJs, and it's all of a sudden you look around, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Done that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so a lot of times I would intentionally put that breakfast meeting on my calendar, even though it wasn't necessarily the perfect fit. It was just like, it got me going, showered, shaved, out the door. And the rest of the day, you were so much more productive.
And I think, just to be very conscious of, how you schedule yourself and where you go and what you're looking for out of those events. It may be just one connection at an event of 400 people that can make all the difference. Yeah. So it's not, quantity all the time. It really is about quality, but you got to shop around.
And it also helps you hone your, not just presentation skills, but your elevator pitch, if you will, and gives you some clarity. And it's amazing. Sometimes I would tweak it, and it was amazing. I'd give the same pitch for a while, and I'd go to another event and put a different spin on it. And all of a sudden people were drawn to inquire, whereas before.
And it's funny because Daniel and I are headed after this over to Atlanta Tech Village, where every Friday
for their
they do pitch practice.
Yeah, and they do their Friday
the showdown.
startup chowdown or chowdown startup or something. Yeah.
So we're headed over to have some lunch, but then we're going to sit and, go over our pitches. I'm a business coach and people expect me, to have all this stuff. It's something that you constantly are working on. You're always looking the best way to communicate, to get your ideas across. And it's a challenge. It takes practice. And like you said, changing it up every once in a while is always a good idea.
Big time. So remind us one more time of point of contact for you, website, all that good stuff.
Website is www.the-biz-garage.com. On Twitter at the-biz-garage. And let's see, Facebook, all that, podcasts,
Pinterest, all that stuff will be there.
Yeah, we're out there, and please check us out and reach out. You can get me on email at mike@the-biz-garage.com as well.
Perfect. Well, Daniel, Laura, and Mike, thanks for being here on another episode of Georgia Business Radio. We'll see you next week. Rich Casanova signing out.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for joining Rich Casanova and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of Georgia Business Radio.